He is the only musician ever inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 3 separate times. He is the guitarist whose name once appeared spray-painted across the brick walls of London, a two-word declaration that elevated a young player into myth. Clapton is God. He is a traditionalist who built his identity on the raw honesty of American blues, a man who turned his private struggles into purpose by creating a world-class addiction recovery center, a romantic who wrote two of the most enduring love songs of the entire 20th century. But he is also the figure who, at the height of his fame, unleashed a drunken racist rant on stage, who betrayed the very music and culture that shaped him. He is the alcoholic who mistreated the woman who inspired some of his greatest songs, and the provocateur who later compared public health policies to slavery. To understand Eric Clapton, the brilliance, the darkness, the contradictions, you cannot begin with the legend. You have to begin with the child, with the foundational lie that shaped every wound, every insecurity, every search for truth that followed. The beginning. Eric Patrick Clapton entered the world on March 30th, 1945, in Ripley, Surrey. His mother, Patricia Molly Clapton, was only 16. His father, Edward Walter Fryer, was a 24-year-old Canadian soldier stationed in Britain, a married man who returned to Canada before Eric was born. In post-war England, a teenage unmarried mother faced enormous stigma, so Pat's mother Rose and her partner Jack Clapp made a life-altering decision. They would raise Eric as their own son. The deception was complete. Eric grew up believing his grandparents were his parents and that his mother was simply his older sister. Even his name reflected the confusion. His last name, Clapton, came from Rose's first husband, Reginald Clapton, yet he lived with Rose and Jack Clapp. By school age, he could already sense something was off. He wrote Eric Clapton on forms, but listed his parents as Mr. and Mrs. Clapp. Then, at age 9, everything shattered. Pat, now married and living in Canada, returned for a visit. That is when the truth was finally revealed. The woman he believed to be his sister was actually his mother. The people he had called his parents were his grandparents. The shock hit him instantly and deeply. The once bright and outgoing child became withdrawn and quiet. His school performance collapsed. He failed his 11+ exams. And when an uncle jokingly called him a little bastard, Eric suddenly realized the label was, in a brutal way, literally true. This early trauma, a mixture of abandonment, confusion, and emotional betrayal, became the defining thread of his life, a wound he spent decades trying to soothe through music, love, or addiction. Discovering the blues. As a teenager struggling to make sense of his feelings, Clapton found refuge in the blues, the rawest, most unfiltered emotional language he had ever encountered. He received his first guitar at 13, a cheap steel-string Hoyer that hurt his fingers so badly he put it away for 2 years. But the radio pulled him back in. Hearing blues artists like Sonny Terry and Brownie McGhee created an instant spark. By 15, he was consumed by the music. He practiced obsessively, recording himself on a reel-to-reel machine, replaying the tapes, and chasing perfection note by note. His idols were Big Bill Broonzy, Robert Johnson, and Muddy Waters. Muddy's 1958 UK tour, even though Clapton wasn't there, reshaped the British blues scene he would soon dominate. At 17, he joined his first band, the Roosters, and later played with Casey Jones and the Engineers. His name spread quickly through London's rhythm and blues scene. By October 1963, he was invited to join the Yardbirds, the city's hottest young guitar band. The Yardbirds and the First Great Break. Clapton's 18-month stint in the Yardbirds made him a star. He earned the Slowhand nickname and played on 5 live Yardbirds. But his first major clash with the industry came when the band shifted towards a more commercial pop sound. The breaking point was the hit For Your Love, written by pop songwriter Graham Goldman. To Clapton, the song betrayed everything the blues represented. So, in March 1965, just as the band was about to explode globally, he walked away. I have to play what I believe is pure and sincere, he later explained. That's why I had to leave. He recommended Jimmy Page. Page declined and suggested Jeff Beck instead. Clapton's commitment to musical purity bordered on self-destruction. After growing up inside a lie, he developed a deep hatred for anything he considered fake. Music wasn't just work, it was morality. He found truth again with Mayall's Bluesbreakers, the most authentic R&B band in London. Their landmark album, Bluesbreakers with Eric Clapton, the famous Beano album, cemented his status. His Les Paul through a Marshall JTM 45 created a tone that changed the British blues rock forever. Clapton is God graffiti appeared everywhere. He hated it. He said later, "I never believed it. It was something to aspire to, not something I was." But that unrealistic expectation haunted him for decades. Cream, the supergroup and the meltdown. In July 1966, Clapton formed Cream with Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker, the first real rock supergroup. Their chemistry was explosive and unstable. Bruce and Baker loathed each other, but their 3 albums, Fresh Cream, Disraeli Gears, and Wheels of Fire, were monumental. Sunshine of Your Love, White Room, and their marathon jams made them counterculture heroes. By 1968, the internal warfare and deafening volume tore them apart. Clapton grew sick of the guitar god persona and the endless improvisational chaos. He walked away once again. Blind faith and hiding in plain sight. In 1969, he formed Blind Faith with Steve Winwood, Ginger Baker, and Rick Gritch. It was hyped as the next legendary supergroup. Their Hyde Park debut drew 80,000 people. Their album hit #1, but the band fell apart in months. They wanted a supergroup, Winwood said, and we didn't. Clapton drifted into Delaney and Bonnie's touring band, often not even playing guitar. He wanted to disappear from the spotlight. From their rhythm section, he later built Derek and the Dominos. The name itself was meant to hide his identity, and from that anonymity came his masterpiece. Layla, the masterpiece of obsession and pain. With the Dominos, and with Duane Allman as a guest guitarist, Clapton created Layla and other assorted love songs. The album was a confession set to music. It chronicled his tortured obsession with Pattie Boyd, the wife of his friend George Harrison. This wasn't a romantic triangle, it was emotional chaos. He even dated Pattie's sister in desperation. According to Pattie, he warned her that if she didn't choose him, he would, quote, ride the heroin tiger, implying she would be to blame. Layla was the sound of a man unraveling. Critic Dave Marsh wrote, "There are few moments in rock where a singer has gone deeper inside himself. Layla may be the greatest of them all." The album initially sold poorly. The band collapsed into drugs and paranoia. Pattie stayed with George. Clapton sank into heroin addiction for 3 years. Pete Townsend eventually staged the Rainbow Concert to pull him back. Clean from heroin, Clapton recorded 461 Ocean Boulevard. His cover of I Shot the Sheriff became his first #1 hit and brought reggae to mainstream rock. But sobriety didn't last. He switched to alcohol and cocaine, becoming a functioning alcoholic. Pattie Boyd, the muse and the betrayal. In 1974, Pattie finally left Harrison and began a relationship with Clapton. They married in 1979, but the dream quickly soared. Pattie later said he drank 1.5 bottles of brandy a day. His temper was unpredictable. She said he became violent when drunk. During their marriage, Clapton fathered 2 children with other women, Ruth in 1985 and Connor in 1986. The man who wrote Wonderful Tonight became, in Pattie's words, the opposite of the romantic he appeared to be. They divorced in 1989. The 1976 Racist Rant. The lowest moral moment of Clapton's career came in 1976 during a Birmingham concert. Drunk and angry, he praised far-right politician Enoch Powell, infamous for his Rivers of Blood speech, and shouted, "Keep Britain white! Get the foreigners out!" The crowd was stunned. The hypocrisy was staggering. the white Englishman whose career depended on Black American music, promoting racism. But the backlash sparked something positive. Musicians founded Rock Against Racism, writing, "Half your music is Black, Eric. What's going on?" Tragedy and redemption. Connor. Clapton achieved real sobriety in 1987. His life soon centered on his young son, Connor. On March 19, 1991, Clapton took Connor to the circus in New York. The next morning, tragedy struck. Connor ran through an open window in his mother's 53rd floor apartment and fell to his death. He was 4 years old. Clapton arrived at the scene in shock. Biographers say the tragedy cemented his sobriety. He turned to music, not alcohol. He wrote Tears in Heaven, released on the Rush soundtrack. On January 16, 1992, he recorded MTV.
Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.